Hello, Eddie. How are you?
G'day, James. How you going?
Very well, very well. Thanks very much for being here today. I know you're a very busy guy, so we appreciate you making the time to be here with us. The reason that I brought you in, I want to chat to you about a variety of things, but we'll just sort of see where the conversation goes. I wanted to start with you're a counsellor, you're in business, you're a Geelong local, you've been here forever?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, cool. And well, I guess we'll just start there. It's pretty easy breezy with the podcast. So when were you first wanting to get involved in council? How did that sort of start? You've obviously been around Geelong for a while. What drove your desire to get involved?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first time I ran was in 2008. And at that time I ran against Darren Saunderson, who infamously was outed of council 12 months later after the election. So I wasn't voted in at that time. What I guess drew me to council was a number of things. Politics is something that we enjoy in our household. As you know, my brother's been involved in politics for an extended period of time. He's obviously the current mayor and was a previous mayor as well.
Yeah.
So it was something that we talked about a lot. Giving back to the community is something that I enjoy, using the skill set that I've perhaps been able to build through other areas, whether it be my career or whether it be working in the clubs environment and things of that nature, but then being able to apply it to the community.
So what clubs are you involved in?
So we were involved in the Slovenian club, we were involved in a number of sort of sporting clubs and things of that nature. Yep. So applying those same skills, but then applying them to the community, I felt was really beneficial. And then I just returned back from working in Tasmania for 3 years, and I could see that there were things that weren't quite right on council, or at least in that local government area, in and around that North Geelong area, sort of that Bell Park, Bell Post Hill area. You know it well, James,
yes.
Coming from that area yourself.
Yep.
Going back about 15, 20 years ago, it was quite multicultural. It still is. Mm-hmm. And I felt, no point continuing to sort of moan about it. I felt I had some skill set that I could offer, and so I put my hand up.
Awesome.
As I said, I wasn't elected in 2008. End of 2009, there was a by-election. I ran in that by-election and was elected in 2010. I think it was January or February 2010.
Yep.
So that's where the journey started.
Awesome. And what was that experience like walking in? Obviously, you'd been a private sector professional, stepping into council. How was it different from running a business or being in the private sector?
Probably the biggest element that I needed to get my head around and work with was in a business generally, particularly a privately owned business, you have challenges and opportunities. You may debate those, you discuss them, you work through those, but when you leave the room, there is a decision that's made, whether it's consensus or by the owner or by the managing director, and you go for
with that. Yeah.
With council, there are, depending how many councillors on a council, in our case at the time was 12, now there is 11. Mm-hmm. There are generally 11 or 12 different opinions. No one is the boss.
Yeah.
And all the decisions are by consensus.
Yeah.
And so whilst you may want to get things done really rapidly, that's sometimes possible, but generally things take a lot of talking through, massaging, making sure you've got support, and then you get on with making the decision. Yeah. That can be frustrating for people that are used to the cut and thrust of private business, particularly owners of business. And we've seen that with various councillor members over the years publicly. We've seen that. Some of them being in mayoral roles and find it really difficult with that aspect. So that was probably what I needed to adjust to quite quickly. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I felt like I was able to bend and flex and get to understanding the workings of local government rather quickly. I was fortunate that I had, of course, my brother was on council, so I was able to use him as a sounding board.
Yeah.
Andrew Katos was a councillor at the time that I got along with very, very well. He was a good help to me. So, I suppose in every walk of life, you lean on those that you think can be good mentors and coaches for you, and that's what I did.
Yeah, 100%. So on council, did you find that there were people that were, and I guess it's probably at a different level at state and federal governments, that people were just purely ideological when it came to opposition of certain policies? If it was, did you run into that often, where people would just be purely, there's no negotiation, it would just be hard and fast, this is locked in, this is how we're doing it, and if you don't agree, I'm just not going to vote your way?
Oh, look, over 15 years, you get all of that.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, I wouldn't say that was foreign to me.
Yeah.
Over a 15-year journey, I've seen a lot of different councillors over that time. I'm not saying they were bad, good or otherwise. But I've seen all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. No, you're allowed to say that they were bad. No, I'm kidding. Okay, and so it's been 15 years, you said, on council.
Yes.
Did you intend to stay that
with one sacking in between?
Yeah.
You were going to bring it up at some stage, I'm sure.
I was going to mention. Let's just dive straight into that. How was that experience, getting fired from not the people, I guess, because it wasn't Geelong's decision.
Yes,
it was very much a decision made by people who had very, very little right to make that decision, I guess.
Yes.
How was that whole experience?
That experience was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really disappointing for me personally. I'm sure everyone would have different feelings about that time and that feeling. I can only explain it to you from my perspective.
Yeah.
The most valuable asset that you have as an individual, particularly when you're not a business owner, I'm talking more so as an employee now, is your reputation.
Yep.
I'd just been appointed managing director of a pretty large business.
Yep.
About 3 months before I was sacked from council.
Yeah.
So I had about 700 people in that business, and there I was as the leader of that business, a very respected business.
Yeah.
Talking about governance, talking about culture, talking about health and safety and wellness in the workplace. And then 3 months later, I'm on the front page of the local newspaper and I've been sacked from council.
Yeah, booted.
So for me, reputationally, that was quite hurtful in that I then had to get up the next day, talk to the same employees that I had previously, and sort of own some of that and work through that. Equally, as you mentioned before, I'd grown up and lived in Geelong most of my life.
Yeah.
Had worked away overseas for some years, but most of my life. My family was from and is from here. My mum and dad were here. And so then again, having to face the public, and I was quite active, as I always have been, on social media.
Yeah.
Had to deal with that as well. Not just me.
Yeah.
There was,
of course.
There was 11 others.
Yeah,
but I'm just telling you, for me, it was really difficult, particularly where really I felt I hadn't done anything wrong whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you may know this, but at the time, the system was such that an individual councillor couldn't be sacked. It had to be the entire council that was sacked.
Yeah.
And so that was really tough. That was the main reason, plus wanting to continue to give back to the community, that I ran the following year.
Yeah, unfinished business.
And just wanted to demonstrate that what we had been sacked for, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you find, and feel up to you if you want to share, but did you find that there was much of a blowback at work? Were there employees that held it against you and brought it up with you, or was it they were fairly understanding of the whole situation?
Yeah, no, great question. What I can say is, as much as it was personally hurtful, I really had amazing support and honestly from the entire Geelong community.
Yeah.
And the owners of our business were amazing.
Yep.
No problems whatsoever. And the employee group was amazing. So whilst that situation was unsavoury, the way that I was supported by the community, even where, people just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Just ignored it.
Yeah. And I thought at the next election, that's where it would really come out, because at the time, and I don't begrudge them for this, the local newspaper, that was a great story.
Yeah, of course.
Because you had quite a number of us that were running again. And so they threw everything at it. But yet again, it was still actually a very good experience.
Love the media. Were your family affected by it as well? Were there cases where, anyone in your family was, called out and as tarred with your brush, I guess, but like people that would make comment to them because of what had happened to you?
More so, and I think you could appreciate this, as most people could when they're part of a family, is that, you hurt when people in your family or members of your family are hurting.
100%.
That still happens today.
Yeah.
My girls are young,
Yep.
spirited. When they see things in the media or on social media, they would love to go and retaliate, to protect their father.
Yeah.
But that's what you do as family members. Now they don't, but
well behaved.
So not hurt through people directly trying to be hurtful to them. More so just reading the paper, things of that nature.
Yeah, they're defensive.
And you just do. You hurt when your family members are hurting.
100%. 100%. So do you think that this is a problem with, I guess, our political culture as a whole? We're very quick to, and in your case, you were very supported by your work, but there are others who would be incredible public servants if they were to have a go, but there's this fear that if you put yourself out there, you're going to be targeted, you're going to be, picked on by the media and all this other stuff. Do you think that that's a serious issue that we're facing? And if so, how would you fix it?
Yeah. So two things I'd like to say. Notwithstanding what I've just said, I don't ever feel like I'm picked on.
Yeah.
So I'm quite comfortable with whatever comes my way.
Yeah.
Because it is part of being a public figure. You need to accept that.
Totally.
And as I said, I mean it with all sincerity. I don't begrudge the media doing what they do. That's their job. As long as you get a go the other way as well, sometimes,
okay. Yeah.
What I do think happens, James, is and I can speak from experience because it's I live it every day, is I think people that are aspirational in their career and maybe amazing public servants, such as politicians at any level, could maybe restrain themselves from actually putting themselves forward because it could have a really negative impact on your career.
Yeah.
I've been mindful of that every day.
Yeah.
So I could potentially be more outspoken on certain things that I feel really strongly about.
Yeah.
But I take half a step back because I've got to think about the brand that I wear for the business that I'm representing at a senior level,
of course,
on any given day. And I'm not just representing a business, I'm representing, thousands of people that work in that business.
Yeah.
And so you do need to be a little mindful of that. You never quite know if what you may say may also have an impact on the success of that business.
That's true.
Going forward, depending on what industry you're in and what work you're pursuing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it quite answers your question, but I do think people that are in the profession at reasonably senior levels do probably hold back.
Yeah.
either from putting themselves forward for that kind of a life, or from saying exactly what they think because of repercussions that may occur.
Of course. Okay. Well, we've looked at the past, and I'll briefly touch on the most recent election. Obviously, it was there was a fairly strong back to basics sort of campaign. So you've got a lot of people on the council that are a particular way interested in growing the community through business and through sort of taking a back seat almost, not in community involvement, but in council regulations and stuff. How have you found working with the new council, with your brother as mayor?
Yeah, sure. No, it's been an excellent council thus far.
Yep.
It really has been one of the most enjoyable for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't run on the back to basics campaign, but quite a number did.
Yeah.
Having said that, my campaigns are structured, and the initiatives that I try to advocate for are essentially back to basic type of initiatives anyway.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be rate burden, whether it be infrastructure, roads, it's what local government does. You know, building a toilet in Beaufort Avenue or Hugh Street. That's what local government's about. And that's not to suggest we don't then look at other things like major events and things that bring people into the city. But back to basics is generally what I would be working on anyway as business as usual.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's no doubt that there are a good group of councils at the moment where we differ in our views, but there's also probably more that brings us together than pulls us apart. I think last night's council meeting was probably about the best example I could give you of that. We had a reasonably full agenda. We didn't speak for the sake of speaking, which can happen often.
Yeah.
With no real gain.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect either.
It's almost like filibustering. It's
correct.
Just trying to push the agenda down.
We had a budget that we had to adopt that we've been working on, feverishly and hard since January with a new council.
Yeah.
And it was a tough budget fixing type of budget. And all went through, without any real angst or debate amongst each other because we were on the same page.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying working with the new council.
Awesome.
I think we've used this first 6 months, and I do praise my brother with his leadership. Ron Nelson as deputy, I think, is doing an excellent job as well. But everyone's playing a leadership role within the group. I think we've used this last 5-6 months to set the base. This was a budget we had to get out the way. We've now got plans in place to sell some assets, build some revenue streams so that we can go into the next 3 years, with some decent funding that we can start to deliver again on those projects that are so important to the public.
And so what are some of the key points from the budget?
So I think, some of the things that we're all probably hanging our hat on, I guess, is there's no new borrowings whatsoever.
Oh, good.
None. We've set debt to reduce over the next 3 years. Our rates are set at 2.5%, which is lower than the state government cap. And in my time, I was thinking about it last night. I didn't go back and have a look. I think it would be about the third lowest rate that we've ever had.
Great.
So, 2.5. We would have liked to have frozen it at zero.
Yeah. It
just wasn't possible with everything else that we had to do. That said, we've still got a record spend on capital programs, so 210 odd million capital spend. Good thing about capital spending with local government is that the money gets out into the community real quick.
Yeah.
So you go and build sporting change rooms, or you go and build a footpath, or you go and build a road, or you go and fix a toilet.
Yeah.
It goes out quick. That stimulates the economy. That gives people work, whether it's earth movers, whether it's labourers, whatever it may be. It creates work.
It shows a direct impact in the community too.
Correct.
The people are looking for. Yeah.
Then we've cut, and so what I talked about last night was not necessarily the things that we funded, is the things that we reduced and stopped doing.
Yeah.
So we scrapped the fire levy permit, so that's gone.
Good.
We introduced free parking that I've been lobbying and advocating
Been banging
for
on
now
about that for
a
years.
decade. And so I'm so pleased that we've now got finally a councillor group that's reads the room and is willing to make some of those bold decisions. And as of the 14th of July, we will have in all 2-hour parking bays in the CBD free 2-hour parking. So that's an amazing initiative.
Yeah. And it's massive for the businesses in the CBD.
Massive for the businesses. I put it onto Facebook last night just as I was pulling into the garage and, had really great feedback already from local businesses, whether it be an Andy Pobjoy from Piano Bar or the Karuji restaurant in Little Mallup Street or Milton Mavros. All, hey, thanks. It's not going to fix the world, but it helps. Big step forward.
100%.
We removed the fee for low impact filming. So for people that want to come and make small movies or do a bit of filming and do a little doco or whatever it may be, no charge for that low level filming, because I really wanted to do something for the creatives and the arts and culture. Small community events under 100 people, scrapped the charge for a permit.
Awesome.
Those types of things, they're small, just like the last budget where we cut the buskers fees by 50%. I know they're all small things, but those creatives, those that are involved in the arts, those that are involved in music, you're involved in the arts as well. Those little things, they go a long way. And then they go out and they'll have a coffee or a beer or whatever, helps hospitality, and so whatever we can do can help. They're the things that we did, and they're the major points of yesterday's budget.
Awesome. Good. So you mentioned...
and a surplus of small surplus, but, $500,000, but
good.
It's a surplus.
It's a step in the right direction. Correct. You're talking about future plans for what the council's looking to do. What are some of those things? You said that you've now got the budget in place. Now you can look to the fun stuff, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that council's looking at doing?
So one of the big initiatives we've got is to try and, generate revenue. And we've been, I don't want people to think this has just come out of the blue. We've been talking about asset sales for, the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And we've been identifying assets, but we never actually got on and executed at pace. We've sold blocks of land, facilities that are surplus to our needs. These are not facilities that the community is using.
Yeah.
This might be an obscure block of land. I'll explain one to you because I know you'll be familiar with it. At the end of Rowlands Road, just before Ballarat Road, there is a block of land. There used to be, you will never remember this, James, because you're way too young, there used to be a scout hall on there.
Really?
Decades and decades ago. And I went there to learn how to tie knots. Yeah. And that's just been a vacant block of land.
Yeah, right.
It's surplus to council's needs. We do not need it.
Yeah, right.
So it's things like that. The corner of Barton Street and Anarchy Road, the old Bell Park Tech School, which is where I went.
Yeah.
We don't need it. So, it's that type of asset that we're looking to sell to generate revenues within a council, to allow us then to go and do projects, as you say, the fun but needed stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're wanting to do, and obviously the mayor ran on the back of this as well, is rejuvenate the CBD. There's a lot going on in there, but we need to help with that. Some of the things that we can do with that is to help cut some of the red tape in allowing appropriate development to occur more quickly.
Yeah.
Because we need people living in the CBD. We all know things have changed in terms of that retail landscape. People are buying online a lot more and whatnot. But if we've got people that are living in the CBD, that then provides other opportunities, of course, for hospitality, for retail and the like. So there's that. One of the initiatives that got funded in the budget, again, was something the mayor's quite passionate about, is to, are you familiar with the markets that are in Salamanca in Hobart?
No.
So they closed the street off. Salamanca's the area.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, I think it is, in Hobart. And they have this large street market
Oh, cool.
And whilst the street market's on, then all the cafes are open and the restaurants and whatnot, and people meander along, and then they'll go and buy something or have a meal or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We're looking at doing that on the east side of Little Mallup Street.
Yeah.
So the mall.
Yeah, right.
And try and help rejuvenate
That area.
those areas.
Yeah, much needed.
So some of those things are fantastic. We obviously got the convention centre coming on board.
Yes.
That's going to be super
Huge.
exciting because we've got it's ahead of schedule.
Yep.
And I think that'll do wonders for the city.
Definitely.
So that's good. And then, of course, there's smaller, sort of more local types of initiatives. One of the exciting projects that we're working on at the moment with Lead Troop is to bring a running festival to Geelong as well. And so that's another one of the initiatives that
you're very involved in.
very keen on.
Yeah.
I ran the New York Marathon in 2023, and James, there's 54,000 people that run that marathon through the streets of New York.
One of the busiest cities in the world.
Yeah. And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And so that's 54,000 runners. Each runner generally has at least one to maybe three people that come and support them. So Lead Troop's vision is to have the Geelong Running Festival, which would have us probably run a 5 to 7 kilometre run for maybe kids and whatnot.
Yep.
21 kilometre run, and then a 42 kilometre marathon.
Yeah, wow.
Either over a day or two.
Yep.
Date's been picked. It's the 20th of September, 2026. So you've got plenty of time to train, James.
You can tell I'm a natural runner.
I can.
100%.
You're a sprinter, I reckon.
Oh, definitely. Sprinting to the fridge. No.
But that's going to be brilliant for Geelong because we've already proven that we've got a fantastic landscape for that with
definitely.
the 70.3 Ironman that we have and the Cadell Evans a family ride that we do.
Yeah.
They've both been hugely successful, and I think this marathon will be as well.
Is there any sneak peeks on like where the track's going to be?
Yeah, I can give you sort of a very broad brush. It will start at the waterfront. It'll take in a lot of the course that the 70.3 has, so sort of down into Rippleside.
Awesome.
Around that Rippleside Park, around a couple of the streets of sort of Drumcondra and Rippleside.
Yep.
It'll make its way up Moorabool Street, up to Cardinia Park. What it will do from there, it depends on how well Troopy can negotiate with with stakeholders of the various stadiums that are there. It depends. I can't say too much about that.
Yeah.
Then it'll make its way back down towards Moolap, sort of towards the old Alcoa.
Yep.
And then back and finish at the waterfront. Yeah, so it should be great.
Cool. And you'll finish first, second, third?
I'll finish somewhere near the back, but I'll be smiling.
Yeah, okay, good. Awesome. So obviously we're a really big city for arts and events and things of that nature. Obviously we have, Down the Green and all that sort of stuff that happens. What are you working on in the art space?
Yeah, so
obviously the convention centre is going to be massive.
Yeah, the Geelong Gallery is doing some great work. We've now got Humphrey there as the new director.
Yeah.
He's come from Ballarat. He's doing a great job looking at really growing participation and attendees into the gallery.
Yep.
And really partnering with GPAC, the library, the Historic Centre, and of course, if we can get the funding, the expansion of the gallery into City Hall is probably one of our major priorities. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that initiative, but the plan is that the gallery would grow out into City Hall.
Yep.
Council would maintain the chamber for civic uses and also our council meetings, but that would allow the gallery then to grow and expand and really be able to take in bigger exhibitions, be able to make the offerings that they have far more competitive with what's going on or comparative to what's going on in some of the larger cities.
Yep.
So that's really exciting what's going on there. Probably that's probably one of the bigger ones. The other one's not quite art related, but an initiative that we've been working on for some time, and we're getting a bit closer, whilst I won't be able to go into too much detail, is the development of Osborne House.
Yeah.
Which, as you know, is the old Coria Shire building. Prior to that, it was first Naval Hospital. Long history in Geelong. Arguably one of the most beautiful, vistas of Coria Bay that we have. We're partnering with the Gurner Montgomery Group. D. Montgomery owns the Geelong Jail.
Okay. Yep.
They do some really top class developments, and heritage buildings are their specialist or speciality. We think we're getting very close to being able to announce what will be going on and what will be happening in Osborne House.
Awesome.
I'd like to think in the next couple of months.
That's exciting. Yeah, sweet. Awesome. Cool. So with your obviously working with a very favourable council at the moment, there's a lot of good stuff that you guys can sort of coordinate around. And but has there been much opposition to the agenda so far? Has there been any particular, oppositional force on council or outside of council, or is it all pretty?
Not really. Like I don't want to put it that way, just kumbaya every day. Like every, not every topic, but most initiatives will have really good, robust discussion, as you would expect us to do.
Yes,
as representatives of the community, because some have a better understanding on social issues. Others may have a better understanding of commercial realities. Others may come from it from a governance perspective. So everyone has their strengths, and so we challenge each initiative that comes forward. But there hasn't been anything that I've seen come over the chamber in the last 5 months that we haven't been able to work through in an amicable and professional manner.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's what the community probably wants.
We haven't all voted unanimously.
But, of course.
But you move on. You put your position forward on behalf of the community, because it's not your personal view.
No,
that's not what you're there for.
People forget that.
Yeah, you may have you do. Everyone has strong personal views. There's no doubt about that.
Of course.
The one that probably tested us really early, and we probably questioned each other as to why we would be testing each other this strongly within a month of getting voted in, was Australia Day.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. But you know what? I think looking back on it, it's now made us stronger.
Yeah.
As a result. We'd probably still sit where we sat with the vote.
Yeah.
But we were able to work through that with no animosity, and no grudges. By and large, I think the community really appreciated the steps that we took.
Definitely.
And the country really looked upon it, because you then had councils from not only in Victoria but interstate doing the same thing.
100%. And it's certainly a hot debate every January. It always comes up and it always crops up, and it's good to see that you guys took the action that you took.
But it's done now. It's behind us.
Yeah, correct.
We can move on.
100%. And I think that's probably the best part about it, is that it's resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked about council now. I want to talk more about you. You obviously mentioned that you're involved in business and the community. What are some of the causes that you're involved with? Tell me about your work. What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I work for a company called Elphinstone Group. Mm-hmm. We have about 2,700 to 2,900 people in the group. We're essentially an industrial business. So we own and operate a number of businesses, one being the Caterpillar equipment dealer for Victoria and Tasmania.
Yep.
So prior to joining the Elphinstone Group, which was September last year, I was the managing director of William Adams for about 8.5 years, and I was with the company for about 25 years.
Yeah.
So I've been with the group about 26 years. I'm now an executive director for the Elphinstone Group, reporting through to our principal. So we've got the Caterpillar dealer, which has about, depending on where things are at, anywhere between sort of 600 and 700 people.
Yep.
We then have the Caterpillar forklift dealership for Australia, and we also that business also has an access equipment arm, so scissor lifts, and things of that
sort of stuff.
cherry pickers and things of that nature. Yep. So that's for the country. We're involved in rail, so we manufacture carriages for locos, so Rio Tinto, BHP, all the trains that they use. We do a lot of the manufacturing for the carriages of those. We have a maintenance arm in that business as well, and that's Australia wide.
Yep.
So we have that. We've got a really exciting project that we're doing with Hanwha.
Yeah.
So you're probably familiar with the military vehicles that are being manufactured here in Avalon.
Yes.
We have a partnership with Hanwha through our Elphinstone Group, where we manufacture major sections of the military vehicle, including the turret and the gun.
Yeah, wow.
In Burnie, Tasmania, and Wynyard, and a lot of the undercarriage for those military vehicles. They then get shipped to Geelong, and the remainder of the military vehicles are assembled and manufactured here in Geelong. So that's a really nice partnership that we have there. There's about, don't quote me, but I think we're building something over 200 vehicles.
Yeah, wow.
At the moment. And I think with Hanwha, again, I don't have the numbers, I won't have the numbers correct, but their facility was, $180 million facility. It's an amazing facility, and they're looking to employ up to about 300 people.
Sweet.
There. So we're still a manufacturing city to a degree.
Which is great.
We've still got a lot of good skills in the community. So that's that business. We're involved in a tungsten mine in King Island. I'd never been to King Island in my life. I've now been there probably 10 times in the last 2 months. So there's that. And we also have a 47.5% partnership in the Caterpillar dealer in Vietnam.
Yeah, right.
And that's a really exciting business because if you look at the dealership that we have here in Victoria and Tasmania, I'm not sure what's the population of Victoria and Tasmania, probably close to about 8.5, 9 million.
Around
maybe.
that,
In Vietnam, we are the only cat dealer, and the population is about 95 million.
Yeah.
And they want what we have. They want good roads. They want clean running water. They want stable power.
Yeah.
So for us, that's a really exciting opportunity and business. Yeah. So I've been in that business about 10 years now.
Sweet.
Probably a whole range that I haven't spoken about. We do engine packaging. We're involved in power generation. Things of that nature.
How did you get into that?
Well, I completed a diesel mechanic apprenticeship when I left school. And then as soon as I finished my apprenticeship, I went straight into mining. And I was in mining for about 15, 16 years. So I was in Western Australia for close to 10 years. And then I went to South America. I was in Chile for 3.5 years, working in the mines there. And in Chile, 85 to 90% of Chile is at altitude. So I was working at altitude. One mine I was at for about 1.5 years was called Refugio. Refugio was we would work at 5,200 meters above sea level, and we would sleep at 4,800 meters above sea level.
Right.
And it was just constant ice. The whole time I was there.
Yeah.
Really challenging mine in terms of the environment. I suffered from headaches, lack of oxygen, things of that nature, but really character building experience.
What did they mine over there? Silver?
We were mining gold,
Yep.
but they're predominantly copper miners in Chile.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful experience. I was for the first 2 years I was still a single guy and got to travel quite a lot while I was there. So went to the Argentinian Grand Prix when they were just opening it up again after they'd been black band for God knows how many years. Went to Brazil for the Mardi Gras. Yeah. Machu Picchu. You know, did a lot of great things while I was over there.
Awesome.
And then was married and my wife and I were there for a year and that was an amazing experience as well. And then I was in mining. I then came back. We just conceived our first daughter in Chile, and I just had a new position. There was an opportunity to go to Russia and work as well, but my wife was pretty keen to come back home to have some support, as was I. Yeah. And we made the decision to come back to Geelong. I then joined William Adams at that time as a mechanic again. I'd left Chile as the manager of maintenance in that country. Had to start again, so went back onto the tools. That was 1999. Yeah, and William Adams was amazing to me. The owner, Dale Elphinstone, he's still an amazing guy. Gave me every opportunity that I'd ever wanted. Yep, allowed me to continue to study, build on my career, and so started as a mechanic and ended up being the managing director for about 8.5 years. So just a wonderful opportunity, and sometimes that's all anyone can ask for is an opportunity. 100%. Then you make your own luck.
100%. So did you come out of school wanting to work with your hands? Was it always sort of like the pathway for you? Was that something that you'd like to do?
I did as a young man. My brother and I were the same but very different. Yeah. Stretch is an incredibly intelligent and learned individual. Yeah. And has more degrees than I know. Most people that I know. Yeah. Well, more people than anyone I know.
Underachiever, typical.
Yeah. So he was always inclined to go that way. And it was funny, James, in that time, when you left primary school, you were almost making a decision at that stage where your career was going to take you, at least initially, because you either went to a technical school or a high school. Yeah. Stretch went to North Geelong High School. I went to Bell Park Tech. Yeah. The reason was nothing more than I had motorbikes. I enjoyed riding them. I liked fixing them. I liked hanging out with my mates. And I thought that's probably what I want to do. Yep. And it wasn't a bad decision. It's been an amazing career for me. And so, I did enjoy working with my hands. I still probably do. I don't do it as much anymore because I find pleasure in doing other things now. Yeah. But I've still been able to use those skill sets for different things. And I think when I look at things, whether it be on council or in business, I look at it from maybe more of that practical sense, I look at it more from a mechanical sense, a practicality.
How's it actually going to work?
Yeah, and how the commercial's going to work for that. Yeah. How are we actually going to turn a profit from that? So, we all end up where we end up through different pathways and there's no right or wrong. Yeah. So that's how that all sort of worked out.
Awesome. And so at what point in time did you find out that, or did someone else point it out to you, that you've got the managerial skills to step off the tools and into the office?
You may have already seen this. You may have already seen this in your career. It wasn't as if someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I really think you should do this because I think you'll be really good at it." Yeah. One is you instinctively either have a drive or not. And I had a drive to do something. Yeah. And look, this might sound crass, but early on, the reason I went into mining is I wanted to make money. I was an apprentice and I was working pretty hard and I was doing lots of work at home too, fixing cars and all sorts of. I wanted to have adventure and I wanted to make money. And that's why I went into mining. And then when I got there, I saw that the harder I worked, the opportunities came. Yeah. But what I meant when I said to you, James, that you may have seen this already, is it's surprising how little amount of people actually want to continue to take on more senior roles. Some of us see it as really exciting and challenging.
The next step.
Yeah, the next step.
Yeah.
But not everyone is made for that, and that's not a criticism.
No.
There is nothing wrong with that. If you're inclined to do so, then that's great. And then you've got to make sure that you develop yourself
100%.
to be able to do that successfully, whatever that may look like.
Yeah.
If you're not, then you've got to do the same things, but develop yourself to be successful in whatever path you choose. I just enjoyed being part of a team and leading a team and being in leadership roles and being part of a group that can get things done, but also being at the pointy end of that.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And over time, of course, people, may give you some praise or some encouragement. You definitely need that. But don't wait for someone to tell you that I think you're good at that. You've just got to go and do it.
Yeah.
You've
100%.
just got to go and do it.
100%.
And it doesn't always work out. You know that.
Yeah. 100%. So were you always driven to continuously improve? I've just smacked the mic. Did you always have that natural drive, or was it something that you had to work at?
I think I did, but I think what I was in my early days, what I was chasing was probably adventure and opportunity.
Yeah.
And those early days in mining really gave me that, because you were traveling all over Australia.
Yeah.
You get there, they may need a supervisor. You've never been a supervisor, but you say, "I'll give it a go."
Yeah. You put your
and they give you a go.
Yeah.
And then so that is what I think drove me, was the opportunities and the excitement.
So experience driven.
I think so.
Awesome. So how do you find new experiences in your current role?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. It's very different to my previous role, because my previous role was quite operational, whereas now it's a lot more strategic. So I sit on 4 boards.
Yeah.
So the difference, obviously, not trying to explain this for any other reason than just to sort of talk it through, is that, when you're a managing director or a general manager or a supervisor or a manager of a department, you're actually involved in the operations of that business day to day.
Yeah.
Decisions are made on your word.
Yeah.
As a director, you can influence and you can assist, but you're actually getting things done through others.
Yeah.
So that's a big change for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking after a property portfolio, which I've never done before.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really enjoyable as well. So I'm really enjoying getting to know the other businesses that I was always aware of, because I sat on and have been sitting on the Elphinstone Advisory Board since 2008.
Yeah.
But I'd never really had a lot to do with them. So learning about the business that we do in rail, learning about the work that we do in engine packaging, learning about the mine site that we have in King Island. They've been really interesting experiences for me thus far.
Yeah. So would you say, I was chatting to somebody the other day who's, again, a high-level executive sort of role. He kind of resented the fact that he was getting the further that he succeeded in the executive part of his career, the further he got away from the coalface. He was someone that would be quite happy to just jump back in and get back on the tools. Do you find that there's part of you that would not necessarily go back, but you do miss being at the bottom level?
What's interesting, what I've said to a lot of people that have asked me how I'm enjoying the change, particularly people that are within our organisation, is the things that you whinge about most when you're in the positions are the things that you tend to miss.
Yeah.
Okay? So, we when I say whinge, we moan and groan about things. Doesn't mean we don't like them. Sometimes you just get home and you want to tell someone and you want some sympathy.
Yeah.
Which you won't get anyway.
No.
But, so you might have a revolving door all day, people coming in.
Yeah.
Because, when you're managing any business,
Well, you're managing people.
club, whatever it may be that you're involved in, when you have people involved
Yeah.
in what you're doing, there are things happening every day. There's family issues, people are sick, there's financial issues, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you go, what did I actually get achieved? Yeah, and you think to yourself, if all these people weren't here, I'd actually get my job done. But you're saying that in jest because, in fact, the business is people.
Correct.
Okay? So I don't have that revolving door anymore. So I do miss that from time to time.
Yeah.
I miss the interaction with customers that I used to have before.
Yeah.
I'm able to supplement that now because I still get that fix from time to time, but I'd have that daily. So they're things that, sometimes you'd look at and you'd think, that's getting in the way of me getting my job done today. But at the end of the day, that's what you really love doing as well.
Correct. That's
so
part of
so I sort of resonate with what you were saying about the other gentleman that you were talking to. You miss those things that you were doing because you've done them for so long.
Correct.
But you find other things that you enjoy as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to ask you about productivity and how you stay on top of everything, because you do a lot. Like every other Facebook post you're posting about you run across the waterfront or, something, like you're always doing something. And the role that you have, I imagine, is fairly involved. You'd need to be aware of things and across things. So how do you manage your day? How do you stay productive? What are your little tricks that help you get everything done?
Yeah, look, I think most people are pretty productive.
Yeah.
And Facebook and social media is not always a good gauge for that.
No.
The main reason I use social media, and I think will be true, I may be wrong. My daughters believe I'm wrong, but I think if I was not on council, I don't think I would necessarily be on social media.
Right.
The reason I'm on social media is I like to try and use that as a method of communicating with the community, because it actually has been really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Because how else do you tell people what you're doing or what's coming up or what did we do? You can't send letters to everyone.
No.
So I found that really helpful, and it helps promote things that we are doing, but also that the community's doing. Like the Rangers Soccer Club was celebrating 70 years on Saturday, and they had a legend adopted in John Barr. Scott Davison was recognised for his contribution to the club, and they've named the best and fairest trophy after him. Nice. Those people deserve some acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And so I use social media for that.
Yeah, awesome.
I've got away from what you were saying, but that was just to touch on that. Yes, I am busy. There's no doubt about that, as you are, as most people are.
Yeah.
Because, we have families. We've all got probably, unfortunately, mortgages. We've got commitments, and then we've got things that we enjoy doing.
But today, I'll just go into a specific example. I had 4 meetings that I needed to get to that were all at very different points of Melbourne. And I've driven through, and when I was in the car, I was, using Siri to try and get her to send an email because someone had just said that there was a problem with a particular document that I'd sent through, and I needed to get her to edit it and do this thing. And it was obviously, thankfully, AI is able to do stuff while I'm driving, because I wasn't allowed to pull over, or wasn't allowed to do it while I was driving. But, had to pull over and smash out a couple of text messages and do a couple of emails. And obviously I was calling on the go. It was an insane day. And it was for one job. So, going through your job, and it's obviously a much more involved role than what I've got, thankfully. Managing council as well, managing all of the community events that you go to, because you do go to a lot of them. Yeah, how do you manage to stay on top of all of that?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to be very transparent with that. So first and foremost, everyone's different, okay? But I realised decades ago that what helps me cope mentally, at least, okay, is I have to exercise.
Yeah.
I just have to. No matter where I am, I have to find time for that, because I just function way better. I'm a better person as a result of that. So I always start the day, if I absolutely possibly can, by doing that. And that won't matter what time I have to get up to get that done, I will get it done.
Yeah, right. So wake up earlier.
Just wake up earlier.
Yeah.
So if I've got a flight at Tullamarine at 8, I know I've got to leave Geelong by 6. I'll be up at 3.
Yeah.
because I have to train for about an hour and a half, showers 2 hours, get in the car, go, So, but I can sleep on the plane.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So anyway, that gets that done. Then I'm set. My mind's ready to go.
Okay.
Then with work and council, I'm very respectful of my employer. I try not to mix any council business during the day unless it's my lunch break or if I can do a quick text or something like that.
Yep.
But I'm employed to do a job and I'm getting paid to do that job.
Correct.
That has to be priority.
100%.
Okay. But then after hours and weekends, I try and get most of my council work done. Events and functions, I'll do what I can.
Yeah.
I don't go to as many councils, but I go to more than some.
Yeah.
Right. So on weekends, I'll give it my all.
Yeah.
I'll try and do whatever I'm asked to do, whether it be to help the councillors out with events that they can't get to, or whether it be community that's asking me to attend to. So I would do, on the average, 3 to 4 on a weekend. You might do one during the day on a Saturday. Saturday night you'll have another one, generally something in the morning on a Sunday, and then there might be something Sunday afternoon, or there might be 3 on a Saturday or whatever.
Yeah.
So weekends I give it my best shot that I possibly can.
Yeah.
Read all my papers, get myself organised, and then it's at night if I can, because with my job we entertain as well, and so you don't always. But Tuesday nights I dedicate to council to the best of my ability.
Yep. And
public meetings, I'm always there unless there is something completely
catastrophic.
Yeah, or or I'm away on annual leave or whatever.
Yep.
So that's how I try and manage that.
Okay.
And family, I'm not going to say.
That's my next question.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I've got no regrets.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I've lived this life without regrets. But there's still. Have you ever watched the movie Switch?
No.
Right. Well, if you're a father that's maybe not always invested 100% in the family, and you've chased your career and counsel and everything else, you watch that film, it kills you.
Yeah.
It kills you. So what happens, the guy's got a remote control.
Oh, Adam Sandler. Okay, yes, I have seen that movie.
He keeps fast-forwarding his life.
Yeah.
So he can then go
over the meetings and everything else.
But it bites you.
Yeah.
Right? And that kills me, right? So I do what I can. My girls used to come and campaign with me.
Yes.
We were in front of IGA handing out how to vote. They'd be with me. And, some of those memories have been some of the most wonderful, because they'd be approached by people and people would say things to them, and then we'd talk about that, and laugh about it. But I wouldn't say I've been the best at work life.
Yep.
I don't know who is. People talk about work life a lot. You've just got to give it. You just got to do the best that you can.
100%.
But I've got a really supportive family.
Awesome.
I've got an amazing wife and 3 daughters that support me.
You really do. They're like on any like campaign that I've seen you on, they're like the first there. They're like attached to the campaign in every way.
I don't think they enjoy it, but they're there.
But they're there, and that's
there.
the main thing. And look, you even your family's helped out me a couple of times when I was campaigning. So
I've still got one of your T-shirts.
Yeah. And I told my brother about that, because my brother went to school with your daughter, he said, "What? He's got one of your shirts," and I'm like, "Yeah, the James Bennett Home."
Yeah, that's my pajamas.
Yeah, I said that to him, and he goes, "That's so cool."
I have got Stephanie Ashes as well, though.
That's great. It's just
and he's at hers model.
Yeah, right. Nice, very cool. So, do you just collect paraphernalia from every campaign that you've been involved in?
But I don't like to throw T-shirts out. They come in handy.
Fair enough. They are useful. Did you still have the caps from the Darren Lyons campaign with the mohawk?
Yeah, of course. I got it on my bar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't throw too much out.
Yeah. I was walking through I think it was the Mill Markets or something, and one of those, secondhand, you buy all of the, and there was like 3 Darren Lyons hats, and I'm like, got to get those. That's
should have called me. I could have given you one.
Yeah, that's history. No, it was cool. So, right, you think that it's the family's understanding of your commitment to your work and the community. So I think that's okay. I think that their understanding of that, they see you as a good role model.
No, I hope so. Yeah, we've got a really good relationship.
Yeah, nice, awesome. We are sort of coming towards the end, so I might move to Quick fire questions, and this is where I frantically think of some random questions to ask you to put you on the spot. The first one's probably the easiest one. Who is your favourite counsellor to work with?
Well, look, I will say Ron Nelson.
Not Stretch.
Well, no, look, of course, I like working with Stretch. Of course, we've worked together, a lot on council over the years and on business ventures and, of course, family. Yeah. So, of course, I enjoy Stretch. But Ron has been a wonderful colleague over many years. Ron and I were elected a year apart.
Yep.
And when Ron says he's got your back, he's got your back.
Awesome.
And I don't rate anything much higher than that.
Fair enough. Loyalty. That's good. So on council, maybe in council meetings, do you and Stretch, is it still that brotherhood, how to press each other's buttons and that sort of stuff to, get things done or act in a certain way or anything like that? Is there any brotherhood?
Secret handshakes, Jake.
Yeah, right. Okay. Is there a rivalry? Is there, any of those sort of dynamics or not really?
No, I don't think so.
You're both mature adults.
There's no doubt that as you're growing up and you challenge each other as brothers,
100%.
But I have to, Stretch has been a role model for me.
Yeah.
There's 7 years, close to 7 years difference between Stretch and I. I've always looked up to Stretch, and it's been a good brotherly relationship.
Yeah.
But we're in a good space where Stretch understands that I won't always
agree
have the exact same views as him, and he doesn't have the same as I.
Yeah.
And there are times where we just vote differently, and that's okay. That's life.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of it more from the perspective.
I'm sure he knows how to push my buttons, and I'm sure I know how to push his, but
Exactly.
we don't use them often.
I feel like if my brother and I were working in a professional environment, we'd still try and just get the screws in a little bit. But
well, look, yesterday when the meeting finished, I thought yesterday was a really good meeting.
Yeah.
Because you sense a meeting, a meeting can be really poor. And it was a really good meeting.
Awesome.
I walked up to Stretch at the end of the meeting and I said, I shook his hand and I congratulated him and said, great chairing of the meeting, Stretch. Yeah. And there was a person sitting next to Stretch and said, that's really beautiful brotherly love. And I said, I'm sure your family members would do the same for you. And she said, my family members would tell me I sucked. I said, yeah, but they come.
Yeah, that'd be my brother.
From a place of love, I'm sure.
Correct. It's like, no,
so everyone does things differently, 100%. But I'm sure it comes from a place of love.
100%.
Okay.
No, cool. Okay. What is your proudest achievement on council?
Look, I'd have to say there's a number, but free parking at the moment, it would be hard to say that wasn't one of my biggest ones.
Yep.
It's 2.0.
Yeah.
I've had it once.
No, you had it previously.
And what made it more special yesterday is that we got it back.
Permanently.
And it's really been, it's been a long worked on initiative. That Osborne House, whilst it hasn't come to fruition yet, saving it from being sold off and just demolished has also been one of my proudest outcomes.
Yeah.
Because I really lobbied and worked hard with that community.
Yeah.
I've now sort of had in the last sort of 7 or 8 years, had a good colleague with Anthony Aitken, who's also been really strong on that. And I think it'll be a wonderful outcome once we get it done. There's been lots of other little things, but they're probably the two sort of bigger ones. And then, of course, lobbying, and this is more collective, for funding for the convention centre and our library and things of that nature. They're probably bigger ones. But even putting the public toilets into Hugh Street, Milton Street, Beaufort Avenue, when the girls were younger, we'd drive around and I'd say, I put that toilet in, and so every time you flush, you think of me. I'm proud about the small things too.
Nice. So essentially everything, you're just happy that you've achieved things. That's good. And footy fan, you're a Cats man.
Yeah, I am a Cats supporter.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Was disappointed last Friday. Had everything to play for.
Yeah, well, just
had all the build-up.
The whiteout. I guess, there wasn't enough. I don't know what happened. It just didn't rock up.
It's been a bit up and down this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've got a good run. We've got a good run home.
You say bit up and down, and you're like, what, second?
Yeah, correct. Correct.
A bit up and down is my.
But we've lost some of the games that we thought we would win, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, fair.
Now, you could never say Brisbane was going to be a win,
No.
but we had a lot to play for.
100%.
Anyway, hey, they're playing, we're watching.
Yeah, correct. correct. Other sports, do you follow the cricket much or anything like that?
Not so much. Look, I like all sport.
Soccer.
I like all sport.
Yep.
I really most sports I enjoy. And I love seeing athletes succeed. But what I really love also is I love music.
Yeah.
So I play the guitar.
That was my last
And
question.
I'm not that great, but I really, really enjoy it. I love doing open mics.
Yeah,
when I say I love, it's that nervousness of going up there and singing when you're not a singer.
Yeah.
And playing the guitar when you're not a guitarist. But because your name's Eddie, you do think of yourself as Eddie Van Halen from time to time. And putting yourself in front of people that have maybe seen you in the chamber.
Yeah.
Or with your children at school, or seen you at work, and now you're
rocking out.
Now you're trying to rock out. I love that nervousness of doing that.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed doing that as well.
And are you a multi-instrumentalist, or is it guitar that you focus on?
You know what I'd really like to learn is the piano accordion.
Yep. Nice.
Stretch used to play the piano
I've got
accordion.
a friend who has one. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to learn that. But I think I better keep critiquing the guitar for a bit longer.
Well, look, I'll finish it there. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit in with me and have a chat. How can people connect with you best?
Oh, look, there's so many ways, but I'm pretty accessible. Of course, if people want to DM me, or people want to look up our contact details on the council website, our emails are there, our phone numbers there, WhatsApp, whatever way people want to reach out, I will always try and come back to you. I may not get your phone call there and then because, as I said, I work.
Yeah.
And so during the day, it's very rarely that I would answer a council phone call, but I will always come back to you. If I miss getting back to someone, it's certainly not through intent.
Yep.
Yeah, I really try hard to try and get back to people if I can.
And your Instagram is at Eddy Kontelj?
That's right.
That's the one? Awesome. Cool. Well, this has been a fairly Geelong-centric episode, so apologies to all of the non-Geelong listeners, although I bet you wish you had a counsellor as good as Edddy. Thank you very much again for being here. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you, James. I think you're doing a great job with these podcasts, and I've been watching some of them.
Yeah.
What's good about them? It's maybe some people find them a bit long, but it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Paul Baker. I've met him before, but I didn't know a lot about him.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a great guy.
He's done a lot of stuff.
Yep. 100%. 100% covered a lot of cases.
So thank you, James, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All good. Anytime.
Good on you, mate.
Thank you.